allocate each risk to whoever can manage it best is true, but it undersells how this actually works. Real allocation runs on named frameworks with dozens of defined categories. Real risk pricing runs on probability distributions and simulation, not intuition. This episode covers both, plus a case where getting the allocation right on paper still wasn't enough. Start with the framework practitioners actually use. The Global Infrastructure Hub's PPP risk allocation tool, built with Norton Rose Fulbright and later updated with Allen and Overy. It defines 16 risk categories, among them site risk, design and construction risk, operating risk, network and interface risk, and legislative risk, mapped across roughly 18 project types, from toll roads to hospitals to power plants. Each matrix cell carries annotations on why that allocation makes sense, what mitigates it, and how the same risk shifts between developed and emerging markets. Naming a category isn't pricing it. The standard method behind a public sector comparator or bid evaluation is probability times impact. How likely is the event? What does it cost if it happens? Multiplied across every risk on the register. Agencies then run a Monte Carlo simulation, thousands of randomized iterations across those probability distributions, producing a range of outcomes, often reported as P50 and P90 estimates. That range, converted to net present value, is what gets compared against conventional procurement. The risk premium in a bid isn't a guess, it's a simulated output. Here's what happens when allocation is correct on paper, but pricing isn't. In 2002, a consortium led by Cheung Kong Infrastructure won the concession for Sydney's Cross-City Tunnel with the most aggressive traffic forecast among bidders, and paid the New South Wales government $105 million Australian upfront for the right. Demand risk was allocated entirely to the private concessionaire, exactly as the matrix prescribes. But the forecasts that won the tender, projecting between 85 and 95,000 vehicles a day, is exactly what the money was riding on. The tunnel opened in August 2005. Within a month, traffic was running near 20,000 vehicles a day. New South Wales's own Auditor General later confirmed it. By mid-2006, actual patronage sat below 25,000 daily against a predicted 87,000. 16 months after opening, on December 27, 2006, the operating company collapsed into receivership, owing more than $500 million. The risk sat exactly where the contract said it should. It just wasn't priced anywhere near reality. Now the harder question: does contractually transferred mean actually transferred? The UK National Audit Office's review of the Royal Armouries Museum PFI deal in Leeds says no. Signed in 1993, the private operator kept all visitor revenue for 60 years in exchange for bearing demand risk outright. By 1999, visitor shortfalls had produced roughly £10 million in losses, and the lender threatened to cut funding. The Audit Office's verdict on the renegotiation is blunt. Demand risk nominally held by the private party reverted to the public sector, which still funds the museum through an annual grant. That's optimal versus maximal risk transfer. A contract can hand a risk to a party that can't absorb it, and the risk comes home regardless of the paperwork. So, frameworks like the GI Hub's 16-category matrix tell you where a risk should sit. Quantitative methods, probability times impact, Monte Carlo simulation, net present value comparison, tell you what that risk is actually worth. And the audit evidence, from Sydney to Leeds, says allocation on paper doesn't guarantee allocation in practice. If the party holding a risk can't absorb it when it lands, that risk finds its way back to the public sector, usually at a worse price than if it had been priced honestly from the start. That's PPP Deep Dive. Risk allocation. Subscribe to follow the series.